Would you please give a very warm Authors and Characters welcome to Dr. Catherine Pierce. Thank you, Leah. Hello, everybody. It's so nice to be here. Thank you all so much for inviting me and for being so incredibly welcoming already. I've only been here for a few hours and already I just feel at home. This is such a beautiful place. It's such a beautiful venue. And I also know firsthand how much work goes into organizing guests who come. Like Leah said, I co-direct the creative writing program at Mississippi State. I just worked on a festival up at Mississippi State recently. I bring in visiting writers. I know there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of work, and so I want to say thank you to everybody who was involved in making this happen. I'm so grateful for all the work that I know went into this, and it's already such a beautiful visit. I'm really happy to be here. I'm so excited to get to spend a couple of days in Bay St. Louis where I've never been before, and it's amazing. Again, I've only been here a couple of hours, but you might have to drag me out when it's time because I'm not sure that I want to leave. So, like Leah said, today and for the next couple of days, I'm going to be talking a lot about the idea of place, what it means to be from somewhere, and how where we're from informs who we are and what kind of art we might make if we do make art, which most of us probably do in some way or another, whatever it might be. So I thought I would talk a little bit about where I'm from and talk a little bit about how my writing is informed by where I'm from. But I'm from a lot of places, and I'm from a lot of things. And I think the idea of where we're from is more complex than just saying, well, I grew up in this town or in this state. I think there are a lot of layers there. So I wanted to read a little piece I'd written to kind of introduce the idea of place. In the most literal sense, I'm from Delaware originally, and then in some ways from the other places that I've lived. Pennsylvania, Ohio, Missouri, and for the longest amount of time, Mississippi. But just saying the name of a place isn't enough. So, I'm from Wilmington, Delaware, yes. But more accurately, I'm from strip malls and lickety-split ice cream parlor and the old Eric movie theater on Route 1. I'm from my mother's spaghetti with cinnamon in the sauce and my dad's chicken on the barbecue. I'm from high school nights at the Ranch House restaurant on Concord Pike and weekend drives through the valley. And then I left that place and I went to a small college in Pennsylvania where I studied creative writing and theater. And there I was from the Susquehanna River and the floating dock at night, from late nights at Perkins with friends, drinking unlimited coffee and staying up until dawn, from backstage and on stage and old wooden desks in classrooms and the cemetery behind my dorm where my roommate and I would hang out sometimes. And after college, I went to Ohio State for my MFA in poetry. I lived there for 3 years. And by the time I left, I was from poems and poems and poems. I was from Larry's, the best dive bar in the world, where you could get Cajun peanuts and a beer and 5 songs on the jukebox for $6. I was from the loneliness of living by myself for the first time, and from the complex and deep joy of falling in love. Then I, along with the person I fell in love with, who is my now husband, Mike, moved to Columbia, Missouri, where we were both getting our PhDs in literature and creative writing. And there I was from a backyard garden of tomatoes and peppers and patty pan squash, from hot air balloons that drifted overhead on hot summer days. I was from stress over exams and long conversations about Keats and Bishop and Langston Hughes, and the arcade around the corner, where Mike and I took quarters to blow off steam after a day of studying by playing Ms. Pac-Man and Galaga. It was really fun, by the way. And when I got my first job in Starkville, Mississippi, at Mississippi State, I carried all of that with me and settled into a new place, a new state, a new role. And now I'm from crepe myrtles. They're hot pink, they're deep red, they're soft whites and purples. And I'm from the lizards on my living room wall and scuttling across my bathroom floor. I'm from a heat so muscular it took me a few months to build up my strength to match its power. From the new to me wonder of catfish and fried green tomatoes, the juleps we made from the mint growing wild in our backyard. from the cicadas that called so loud we had to raise our voices to talk as we sat on our screened porch, toasting our mint juleps, to our new life in Mississippi. And then, as the years went on, to our life in Mississippi, no longer new, but always newly made. And I'm from my sons being born, and a house chaotic with toys and books and voices. And I'm from tornadoes and birthdays and the pandemic. I'm from humidity and crickets and tree frogs and family. And too, I'm still from strip malls and the old Eric movie theater, from the Susquehanna River and the jukebox at Larry's, from that Missouri backyard garden, and from that first bite of fried green tomato. Every day I add something new to where I'm from, and none of it ever leaves. I carry it with me, and it anchors me into who I am. I wanted to start with that little piece about the idea of place, because it sets the groundwork for what I think is so important, which is that place is not just a physical place. It's everything that place carries with it. It's everything that we associate with it. It's our memories. It's what we eat there. It's what we get to see. It's the sounds that we hear. It's the places that are part of that place. It's the insects and animals that are part of that place. It's the smells of it. All of this is part of place, and all of this is who we are. So I'm going to read a few poems and talk a little bit about how place connects to them. But before I did that, I thought I would just turn it over to everybody here for a minute. I would like to know a little bit more about where you're all from and what it is about Bay St. Louis that either keeps you here or brought you back here. So first of all, let's just see, how many of you live in Bay St. Louis now? How many of you live somewhere else and drove in? Amazing. Yeah, the water. What else?
The herons, the pelicans, the birds.
The herons, the pelicans, and the birds. I love herons so much. I love pelicans too, but herons are every time you see a heron, it's like seeing a dinosaur, I think. It just looks like they're these prehistoric creatures. And the pelicans. Yeah, you're right, pelicans too, absolutely. Yeah.
Coast casual.
Oh, coast casual, just the whole kind of vibe. I love that. That's great.
The people.
The people. Yeah, absolutely, the people.
You don't meet strangers.
Don't meet strangers, I love that.
The pace.
The pace.
Yeah.
Is it a sort of a mellow pace?
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Place of art. Yeah.
Yes.
All the
Yes.
arts here too.
Amazing. That's just the most wonderful restorative thing, to know that you have a community of art is so wonderful and magical.
No fiddling.
I'll just follow her a little bit and just say, incredible talent from everything from little theaters to local musicians
Yeah.
and art.
Yeah.
It's really amazing.
It's amazing, and I feel like that kind of, if you have that in a place where you live, it just brings so much life and texture to that place, and it's just so valuable. So yeah, that's amazing.
The trees.
The trees, yeah. What kinds of trees are here?
Live oak.
Live oak.
All right. That was a chorus of live oaks. That was great. That was really, I love that. What were you going to
I was
say?
going to say proximity.
Yeah.
Because of where we can get to and still come back home in the same day.
Yes. Yeah, you're close to a lot of things here. And yet it feels really private in a way, just because I was driving down and I just kept driving and I just kept going, and suddenly I was at the water, and that's amazing. You just go and then you're there. So yeah, I love that. Yeah. History, yes, absolutely. And you can feel that. I mean, I've only been here a few hours, but I feel like I can already kind of get a sense of that a little bit. Definitely. Yeah.
My friends from Texas come for the food.
The food, yeah. Oh, that's good. Good food really matters. It's really important. Yeah.
It's gonna sound like I'm sucking up, but the library.
Yes. Yeah.
It's been part of my life since I was 6 years old, in whatever incarnation it's been in. And trust me, I've seen it go through several different buildings and bookmobiles, and I cannot imagine my life without the library that holds me together in so many ways.
Yes. And also, what a beautiful tribute to what a library can be. Thank you. And that's so important. A library is the heart of a town, I think. And it's a place where people can gather, and it's a place where we have resources, and librarians are incredible. The work that they're doing is just amazing. So yeah, let's just clap for the library one more time, because yay, library. Hooray. Absolutely, yeah, thank you. So just from that, I mean, already there are so many details about this place that people have just said. And it's not just the physical location, right? The physical location matters, obviously. We're looking at it, this is incredible. And that gives it a part of its flavor, that makes it a huge part of what it is and who it is. But there's other elements too, right? There are the people, there's the history, there are the communities that arise from this place, there's the food of the place, right? And the trees and the birds and all of this. It all kind of comes together to form a place. And so when we talk about being from somewhere, what we're really saying is, I am from all of this. I am from the people that I grew up around. I am from the birds that I heard every day. I am from my favorite meal at my favorite restaurant. I am from all of this. And so place is really, really multi-layered, and it involves all of our senses, and it involves memory and association. So it's this really wonderful kind of, I'm trying to think of a good metaphor, and the best I'm coming up with right now is an onion, like one of those blooming onions from Outback, which is not a great metaphor. That's actually a really bad metaphor. But, you should have all the different pieces to it, so let's not quote me on that metaphor. That was bad. But you get what I'm trying to say. So thank you for sharing a little bit about this place. I'm hoping that in the next 2 days, I'm going to get a chance to talk to a lot more people about all the things that make Bay St. Louis what it is, and the surrounding areas too. I'd like to hear more about, and I'm hoping to experience some of it for myself, because it's a beautiful place. So I thought I would share a few poems and just talk a little bit about where they came from and how they connect to place, and then we can just kind of have a little bit of a conversation too. And also, Leah, could you just give me a 10-minute warning when I get near my 10-minute, okay, great, thank you. Forgot to put my phone up, and that's okay. All right, so I'm going to read a poem, and I think a couple of these are in your program, so if you want to follow along, you can. But the first poem that I'm going to share is called What the Hour Before the Tornado Feels Like. I think that one might be on the back of the program. And I moved here in 2007 to Mississippi. And I grew up in Delaware. We didn't have tornadoes in Delaware. Now there are a few every once in a while, but they're minor. They're not really, they're not the kinds that we get down here. And I lived in the Midwest for a while. I lived in Ohio, I lived in Missouri, and we did get tornadoes there. But we also had basements there. And so that made it a little less frightening than when I moved to Starkville and nobody has basements. And that was a learning curve. But I became very attuned to the weather in my new home, and partly because it was really interesting to me, and partly because it was really scary to me. And so I ended up thinking a lot about what it feels like before the weather turns, because I think it does have a very particular feel to it. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. You step outside and you just feel something is different, and you get worried because you can tell. Yeah, you can tell the difference, right? Between, it's just a rainstorm, and this is something else. And so that was something that I wanted to try to write about, and I wanted to try to describe it as accurately as I could, because it's a hard thing to describe. And so I ended up using sort of a series of metaphors here. The poem gets a little weird because I think that feeling is a little weird. That feeling when you step outside and you feel unsettled and you can't quite explain why, but you just know. So this is called What the Hour Before the Tornado Feels Like. Like a damp towel left in the dryer. Like crook of your knee plus school bus seat plus busted air conditioner. Like late August and dead horseshoe crabs broiling along the shore. Step outside and the air is a weight you bear. Step outside and hackles rise. Step outside and become dog. Howling is the correct response. The sky is a bright eye on an evil mannequin. Silence, because what birds could sing in those leaves flashing their milky underbellies? The wind is sweet but serrated, like cider slipping over to vinegar. Our bones weren't built to carry this quiet charge. So that idea there of just that discomfort, that sense of unease you get when you step outside and the weather is about to do something dangerous. That's what I was trying to get at there. Do folks here have thoughts about what that feeling feels like? Can anybody describe it? I think people, you know that feeling, whether it's a tornado, whether it's a hurricane that's impending. But I know this is an area that certainly knows weather. So what does it feel like to you when you step outside and it's not there yet, but you can tell it's going to be? Dread, yeah, a feeling of dread. Foreboding, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know about others, but it seems to me that my animals know it first.
Yes.
And what I pick up on with weather and changes in, call it barometric pressure, I'm really picking up on whatever they're picking up on, and then I'm cluing into it. They get it first, I come to it late.
Yes, yes, no, it's amazing with animals. Yeah, how many of you have seen that with animals, just picking up on it before? Yeah, they're, the dog is in the safe place, or my cat used to go behind the toilet. Somehow she would know, she would just go behind the toilet, so yeah.
Growing up down the street from here, it's true. Look at what starts for the beach birds.
Uh-huh.
If they're all of a sudden nervous,
Yes.
Correct.
and they are, you don't see them. Well, they sense it like.
It's when they're gone.
Yeah.
If there's no birds around, then it's like, they've left. It's gonna be bad.
That's, yeah. That's an incredible detail, because right, what an unsettling and ominous thing if the birds are just gone.
They're gone.
And this is an area with a lot of birds, obviously, and so that would be a great detail for a poem, honestly, like that you wake up and the birds are gone, and that's a great detail. Yeah, so it's such an unsettling thing, and it's so particular place by place. I know that up in Starkville, I would sometimes go out and it would be kind of nice out. It would be, sort of warm, and there'd be a soft breeze and all of this. But it would make me very nervous because you could tell the difference. And so there was something unsettling about the fact that it did feel kind of pleasant, but it wasn't going to stay pleasant. And we knew that. And so that contrast was unsettling too. So place, I think, can also be weather. I think, places have their own weather. And when I teach fiction writing also, when I teach fiction, we talk a lot about how setting is not just physical location, but it's also anything that surrounds you, so it can be weather. So setting is weather as well. So I wanted to read another poem so this book is called The Tornado is the World. And I wrote this book, this is very much a Mississippi book. I wrote this book following two big events in my life. One was the birth of my son, my first son, who was born in December 2010. And the other was the tornado outbreak of April 27th, 2011. And I'm sure some of you remember that day. It was really devastating across the South. And on that day, my husband and I and our son, who was 4 months old, were traveling. And we had known the weather was going to be bad, but we didn't quite know how bad, and we had to get somewhere. We had an event we were doing, and so we had our son in the car and we were driving. And we were in Alabama at the time, and the sky started looking really bad. And we pulled over to a little motel, it was a Days Inn. And we went inside, we were gonna check the weather. We didn't have smartphones yet, this was pre-smartphone for us, so we were just kind of gauging as best we could. And we got into this motel, and these two women came running in 5 minutes later, and they said, the tornado is coming, it's out there. And so we all ran and hid in the bathrooms of this lobby. And the power cut out, and everybody was screaming, and my baby was crying, and I'm holding him and trying to cover him, and my husband's trying to cover me. And I truly did think in that moment that was gonna be it. And it was the scariest moment of my life. And then the power came back on, a generator kicked on. And then a woman who had stayed in the lobby called to all of us who had gone to the bathrooms, and she said, it went past, you can come out. And we came out. And the motel was okay, and we were all okay. And we left and we drove a little bit further to a different hotel. And the town it was Cullman, Alabama, and the town had been, a lot of it was destroyed, and several people were killed. And it was a really, it was a devastating day, and to see the wreckage and to know how lucky we had been to not have been killed on that day or injured on that day, and to know that people so close to us had, it really kind of changed the trajectory of our lives in the way that I think being very close to a disaster can. And so after that day, I found myself wanting to write. I should backtrack for a second. After my son was born, I couldn't write for a while. My brain was consumed. I was very tired, first of all, because I had a newborn and he was a terrible sleeper. He was a wonderful child and a terrible sleeper, and that was really tough. So I was very tired. But also, my brain was consumed by my baby, and all I could think of to write was just, I really love my baby, he's really great, and that wasn't gonna make for the best poems. So I didn't really write that. So I couldn't really find my way into poetry for a little while until we had the experience with the tornado. And then I realized what I wanted to do was write about the tornado. And I wanted to kind of find a way to think about that, but I wanted to think about motherhood through that lens as well. And suddenly these poems were just coming out of me, and I wrote a whole series of narrative poems about a tornado and a small town, and there are recurring characters, one of which is the tornado itself, but another of which is a mother. And the mother is clearly me, but some of the circumstances are a little bit different. It's a fictionalized version of me, but the feelings that she expresses are the feelings that I was feeling in those moments. And so this is a poem, I don't think this one is in your program, but it's called The Mother Warns the Tornado. And I'll read this one. This was a poem that I felt very close to after those twin experiences of having my son and then going through the tornado day. The mother warns the tornado, and so there's a little bit of scene setting. It says, scene, a bathtub, dry, the noise outside inaudible behind the baby's wails. I know I've already had more than I deserve. These lungs that rise and fall without effort, the husband who sets free house lizards, this red-doored ranch, my mother on the phone, the fact that I can eat anything, Gouda, popcorn, massaman curry, without worry. Sometimes I feel like I've been overlooked. Checks and balances, and I wait for the tally to be evened. But I am a greedy son of a bitch, and there I know we are kin. Tornado, this is my child. Tornado, I won't say I built him, but I am his shelter. For months I buoyed him in the ocean, on the highway. On crowded streets I learned to walk with my elbows out. And now he is here, and he is new, and he is a small moon, an open face, a heart. Tornado, I want more. Nothing is enough. Nothing ever is. I will heed the warning protocol. I will cover him with my body. I will wait with mattress and flashlight, but know this. If you come down here, if you splinter your way through our pines, if you suck the roof off this red-doored ranch, if you reach out a smoky arm for my child, I will turn hacksaw. I will turn grenade. I will invent for you a throat and choke you. I will find your stupid, wicked, whirling head and cut it off. Do not test me. If you come down here, I will teach you about greed and hunger. I will slice you into palm-sized gusts. Then I will feed you to yourself.
Wow.
That's the "you don't want to mess with mothers" poem. But that was a place poem, and there are two different places that I was writing about there. One was the place of Mississippi. I mean, I was in Alabama when that happened, but it could easily have been in Mississippi. And writing about, my experiences living in a place that has tornadoes. And the other was writing from the place of motherhood, which is another kind of place. I think becoming a parent is like traveling to an entire different country or different world. And I was sort of writing from that perspective for the first time too. And so it's a place poem in that way as well. Yeah, Please, absolutely, thank you. All right, so we have 10 minutes left. So I thought I'd read one more poem, and then if anybody wants to add anything or ask anything, we can do that. The next poem I'm gonna read is happier than that one. Kind of, I mean, it's still got some death in it, but it's, but doesn't every poem in some way? All right, so this is a love poem from my backyard in Starkville, Mississippi. And it's called Vespers, so evening prayers. Mississippi, at the end of March, is a chaos of wisteria. Someone is grilling, someone is practicing the clarinet. Next door, the pugs talk in their small, polite barks. It's beer weather again. Time again to eat berries so bright we almost remark on it, but don't. From the backyard hammock, the early evening sky, blue like a chlorine pool, is wreathed by pines, catalpas, birds insistent and fierce. It's easy to forget we're only pretending their language into song. Even the power lines look kindly, generously dividing the lushness into manageable segments. The fact that we can love it so absolutely, knowing that we will absolutely leave it, is more remarkable than any lightning storm or planet. And also less. Everyone swims through this same bright dark water, and no one asks for praise. But I see you. You somehow nowhere close to collapsing inside the incomprehensible. I see you. And you deserve the red berries, the dark chocolate stout. You deserve whatever fractured music the air carries toward you. So that's another place poem, and it's a love poem for a place. Sometimes I think about how much I love places that I have been, and even the more general place of just this planet, this earth, which is so amazing and so incredible, and it's easy to kind of forget about that as we go about our day-to-day lives and go to the dentist and, go through the carpool line and do whatever we might do. But sometimes I try to stop and say, but look at this. Look at where we are. Look at this planet. Look at what we can look around and see every day. And the sounds that are here, and the things we can smell and touch and taste. And I get sort of overwhelmed by gratitude. And so I wanted to write a poem about that feeling of just truly loving a place so much that you almost can't handle it. That's the line about the power lines dividing the sky into manageable segments, right? It's so beautiful that sometimes we just have to look at a corner of it so we can actually understand it and not just faint from how beautiful it is. So, not that I've actually fainted from how beautiful something is, but I feel like I could sometimes, So, I wanted to share those poems. I think there is one more poem in your, the Beach Town poem. Maybe we'll read that real quick because we're in a beach town here, and that's sort of a fun one to talk about. And then if we have a couple of minutes, we can chat a little more. But I think a lot about travel. I love to travel, and I think about vacations and how sometimes when you go on vacation somewhere, or when you're living in a particularly beautiful place like this, there can be almost a feeling of pressure on us to, change our lives in some way. You go on vacation somewhere and you think, well, I'm really worried about this stuff, but I'm gonna go on vacation and I'm gonna have some kind of revelation, and then I'm gonna get my life together, or then I'm gonna change this thing. That's a lot of pressure to put on like a long weekend, So this is a poem about that. Beach town. You've come for absolution, but the beach town has more pressing matters to attend to. The beach town is busy playing Journey from pink-lit cantinas, busy scattering stars haphazard. You've come for answers, but the beach town is absorbed in perfecting the racket of skee-ball, that old wooden clack and slam, and can't be distracted. It's brutal, the way the beach town won't cooperate. Everything here is ripe for construing. Your parents did ride these same carousel horses. The dragon kite is dipping in a most interpretable way. But then the beach town interrupts the shoreline with a dump truck and a dead flounder. And what do you do with that? Haven't you earned a sunset that reads as redemption? Haven't you earned driftwood curved like a Y for yes? You want the wind to be a firm hand on your shoulder. You want the biplanes dragging ads for all-you-can-eat crabs to mean your life will be a bounty of plenty. The found pink scallop shell, your trophy for wisest choices. But the beach town, sorry, is not in the business of metaphor. The biplane is a biplane. The shell is a shell. You stand on the sand in early evening, the sky shading to violet, the gulls screeching over their pilfered French fries. At your feet is a translucent whelk egg case, a cigarette butt. The metal detector man wands the shoreline. Behind you, midway bells ring and ring as the Calliope song arcs into the humidity. Come on, you say, just give me something. I wrote that poem as sort of a reminder to myself. This was some years ago, and I was in a beach town, and it was beautiful, and I was having that feeling of, oh, why am I not having these realizations I want to have? Why am I still worrying about dumb stuff? Why can't I just get something? And then I thought, wow, I think I'm getting a lot of things right now. I just have to, pay attention to them. So it was a reminder to myself. So I wanted to share those poems and just kind of give a little bit of background about place. But I also wanted to take, do we have 3-4 minutes left, Leah? 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes left? In 3 minutes, does anybody want to say anything else about this place or ask anything about place or just talk about place in general? I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of that. Yeah.
A big part of here is the day after the storm.
Yes.
There's a big difference. That is the big Hurricane Katrina can be
Right.
a water spout or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yes.
You can't really define it. I can't define it. But I can't define it.
I don't know if I can either. I haven't tried, but maybe I should. I love that idea. You're right. The day after a storm is such a particular thing. Yeah, that's a really good point. Now I want to write a poem about that. Okay, thank you. I'm going to credit you for it if I do. What were you going to say, sir?
Dad worked for farm. I lived in dry country and we did school because I'm like a high school.
Wow.
And there's no place I'd rather be than right.
I think that's the best feeling. Isn't that the best feeling, to feel like you're in a place where you really want to be, where you feel at home? I love that. And I think having gone to a bunch of places, lived in a bunch of places, and then finding that place that is your place, there's a real magic to that. Or if you are from a place and you think, yes, this is it, this is where I want to be, there's a real magic to that too. And I can feel that in this place. So I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm so happy to have the chance to talk with everybody and to visit with everyone for these couple of days. And it's probably a good place to wrap it up. So I just want to say thank you again so much, and thank you for coming out and sharing your Thursday here. This has been lovely, and I'm just really happy to meet everyone. So thank you all again.